So we are headed to a full moon. So the feelings are strong and probably very intensified now. Tell me how you feel. Tell me what's going on for you right now. And I'm going to share my screen and show you. So this is the biggest thing that's happening this week. We also have Venus moving to Scorpio later next Friday. But the main thing that we're going to talk about that we really have here is the full moon. So let me share my screen with you. And we're going to go um the transits. So how are you doing as well? What's going on with you? What's not going on with you? Tell me, let me know in the comments. And again, if I take a little while to reply, it's mainly because there's a lot going on my end in my life right now as well. There's a lot of work, but also family situations. So we just found out a couple of days ago that my partner's stepdad passed away. So it's been a difficult time, and in particular, a very difficult year, I must say, because my partner has lost his mom earlier this year as well. So it's the other side of life, isn't it? The grief, the loss, the challenges that this brings to us, that's very real and is very much part of the variety of human experiences that we have here. You know, it makes the multitude of um emotions and experiences that we have to come here for. And I still very much look at that from the growth and evolutionary kind of perspective, where we're all learning something here. We're learning through those challenges as well, but they don't become necessarily less challenging. Maybe there is some comfort, and I think astrology comes in with this wonderful tool, this wonderful technique that can give us a sense of perspective, a sense of timeline, a sense of understanding, some food for thought, right? As a kind of maybe even like some food for the soul rather than food for thought. I think something for us to use to navigate these experiences, the happy ones, the sad ones, that we inevitably encounter in life, and in particular as we get older. This from an astrological perspective is being interesting because it has a lot to do with this guy here. For me personally, for my partner as well, with Saturn. So Saturn is a square his natal sun. Saturn is forming an opposition to my natal Venus. And he did that around the time that his mom passed as well. Obviously, Saturn is retrograde, so it's going back and it's kind of bringing back some of the themes of that time as well. And Venus rules the house of relationships for me. So it really is talking about partnerships and relationships here, and something that I'm learning through my partner. Anyways, this is just obviously to share with you because in the channel, I think I just want to take this turn and be a little bit like I used to be with my blog as well, being a little bit more open, being a little bit more relaxed. You know, when you teach, when you have these programs and academies and these groups, and I still, for me, authenticity is still at the top of, you know, my core values, together with kindness and healing and other stuff in there. But I'm still finding a balance between being professional and being authentic in the sense of talking about, you know, my own life as well, my own story and what's happening with me and that kind of stuff. So I feel that maybe my YouTube channel will be the place where I can be a little bit more raw and a little bit more honest about what's going on, you know? Um we can't be upbeat, excited, and happy constantly. It just doesn't, that's not true. That's not authentic. That's not real, right? So I just feel that urge to be real, to be myself, and to be, open about what's going on. And again, like all of that happening still with that grand trine in water, which for me, there is a lot of emotional integration that's been going on for the last week, over the last week. And yeah, it's still going on, it's still happening. The moon has recently shifted to Pisces. Obviously, we're going through Scorpio season. Is Halloween today, is kind of getting in touch with the other side and with emotional rawness and emotional realness as well. I think there's a lot to say about that. And there's definitely a lot of emotional integration that I'm planning to be doing today because I have the house for myself for this afternoon. So I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be working on that. I'm going to be working with this Grand Trine and what's happening currently in my life as well. All right. This is there. Now, what I really want to focus is the full moon. Now, Tuesday, we have Mars entering Sagittarius. So there are a couple of ingresses here. Mars moving to Sag and Venus later next week, moving to Scorpio as well. So two shifts of flavor. And I think this is already giving us a clue about some of the important themes that this full moon will bring, and that is relating to Mars and Venus. Mars and Venus are shifting signs this week, but they're also very much under the spotlight during this full moon. So the full moon in Brazil will be happening on the 5th of November at 13 degrees Taurus. So is a Taurian full moon, which usually we'll be talking about our core values, will be shining that massive light of the full moon of insights and revelations in that area, in that Taurian area of ourselves, of our psyches, of our birth charts, of, life. So it's a lot to do with what we're building or what we want to build, what, and where and how do we want to have stability in our lives? Is it possible? Is it not possible? There's going to be a lot of light being shed in that, stability, enjoyment, body embodiment, all that sort of Taurian flavor profile. But there's also a couple of things that are really very, very much important and are a major flavor. And again, it kind of follows the line or follows the message that gets repeated here, of Mars and Venus being ingressing in new signs. So one obviously is Venus, which is standing tall and proud here at 28 degrees Libra. So it's in rulership, it's in its own sign, it's powerful, and it's the ruler of that full moon. So full moon in Taurus ruled by Venus, Venus there in Libra, and then that Venus is slowly coming towards the square to Pluto. That Venus is coming to square to Pluto, which reflects a bit of that flavor of Scorpio season, of letting go, of leaving things behind, of detoxing, of understanding what we don't actually value that much. Are we building or trying, are we seeking this sense of stability just for the sake of it? Or does it actually mean something to us? Right? So a lot of that is there. And in fact, Venus is also coming out of an opposition to Chiron and in square to Jupiter as well. So there's almost like a grand cross here involving Venus, Chiron, Pluto, and Jupiter. Even if they're not all in the exact degree here, it's still going on. And the opposition to Chiron in particular is reflecting that same energy that we're talking about of Venus and Mars. How do we balance the Venus and Mars principle in our lives? This full moon will definitely shed light on that. How do we share? How do we say no? How do we attract? How do we go after? The yin yang, two sides of the coin, right? Of love, desire, of passion, of what we really care about in our life. So we have an opportunity to really look at that, to really get insights about that. And Mars here, obviously the ruler of that Chiron in Aries, is freshly, entered Sagittarius. So that word meaning has even more importance here. Going after the things that have meaning to us, reconnection with our sense of purpose, and all of that. And Mars in Sagittarius is also opposition to Uranus at the time of the full moon. So Mars, Mercury sort of conjoined, opposition to Uranus. And again, for me, if Venus in Libra, will be talking about being miscongenial, agreeing, the side, the shadow side of Libra being people pleaser, no, trying to find our way around all of this. Well, that Mars in Sagittarius is absolutely freedom loving, freedom fighter, is opposite to Uranus, is definitely very, very uncompromising. So walk that tightrope during this full moon, because you really need to know what do you need to free yourself from, and what do you need to really stand by and continue building. What kind of stability do you really need? And do you really welcome from an authentic place versus the stability that you're kind of you know, clutching to and holding on to just because you're fearful of change? Those are questions there. And the Mars Uranus might bring an element of impulsivity, or being impulsive, throwing things out of the window because we can't we can't stand it anymore. But again, hold on. Maybe you regret. Maybe it's not the right time to do that. So all of that very much part of this full moon. And the full moon does what? Intensifies energy. So the energy is intensifying, is becoming big, obvious, huge around us, in the sky, in our emotional core. And, it's a time to really look at it, pay attention, and receive those insights for clarity. So I'm just going to pick 3 cards just because obviously I've been doing and teaching astrological tarot for 2 years now. Not that I didn't think about astrological tarot before, I did, but the last 2 years have been a lot more intensely structured. That's the word I want. I've structured a lot of my thoughts around astrological tarot and its practice. So why not? Why not bring and share a little bit more of that? I'm falling in love with the cards more and more. So what insights would be beneficial to all of us about this full moon in Taurus? So insights. Ah, ah, ah. So the first card that I've got is the Two of Pentacles. Two of Pentacles is Jupiter in Capricorn, which is the opposite sign where Jupiter is now. However, the imagery itself for me is really talking about that sense of balance, that sense of keep your feet on the ground, but keep juggling these two. Find the measure. Um, One more card, Mars. We've got the tower here, Mars. And honestly, I'm not surprised. I really think that this Mars energy, obviously Mars rules the sun in Scorpio as well. This Mars energy is very powerful. It's really, in fact, if we follow the thread, you know, um, the sun leads us to that Mars in Sag, which leads us to that Jupiter, which leads us to the moon, which leads us to Venus. They are kind of interconnected here, as I, was talking about already. However, with that tower, with the Two of Pentacles, I really have a sense of navigating this energy, navigating the urge to take action, navigating the potential for separations, for breaking throughs, breaking free, breaking down, breaking up. All sorts of breaks could be expected here. And in order to navigate, think about that Two of Pentacles and the cautiousness of it. Be cautious with this energy, because you might break things that you don't want to break necessarily, that are not to your best interest, that's not aligned with your higher self. rather than your ego. I think those are the two levels that we need to keep in mind as well. And my third card here that I've got is the Nine of Wands. Now, the Nine of Wands is a Sagittarian, is a moon in Sagittarius card. So it brings us back to this corner of the chart. Again, is moon, obviously, is a full moon, but in Sagittarius. So the Nine of Wands is again another card of fighting, being ready, conflict. We are going to navigate some conflict here with this full moon. It could be internal conflict, it could be around us. Place this full moon around your birth chart if you can. Find out where is that 13 degrees Taurus, where is that 0 degrees Sagittarius, and where this might be playing out. All right? Pay attention to that. Feel it. Ground it. That's it. That's what I had to say here about this full moon. And obviously, we're already on a shadow period of Mercury going retrograde because Mercury will turn retrograde at 6 degrees Sagittarius very soon. So, Friday next week, which obviously we will have another video, Venus will enter, Scorpio will continue this flavor of intensity of the Scorpio season, and it's a double whammy of Venus in square to Pluto as well. So it's a bit of a continuation here of what this full moon is kind of giving us a clue for. And Mercury will turn retrograde very soon after. So on the 10th of November, Mercury will be turning retrograde as well. So that's it. We'll talk about Mercury retrograde when the time comes next Friday. But that's what I had to say. Focusing on that full moon, one thing at a time. Let's not get overwhelmed. In particular, sensitives, empaths out there, we do get overwhelmed. So let's take a step back and let's take a step back and make space for nothingness, for integration, for rest, which is really what I'm planning to do this afternoon here as well. So I hope this is helpful. Let me know how you're doing, how you're feeling, what's going on. And I will reply in my own time. I definitely read the comments and they are really super welcome. I am a community builder. I value a lot that interaction and getting to know you. So that's it. I am sending you a lot of love, a lot of healing. Be there, be grounded, be kind, and I'll see you all next week on Thursday. No, on Friday. Take care. Mwah. Big kiss. Bye bye.